Hi guys, welcome back to the 6th episode of the JCP Podcast. Today we're joined by Ash Jones, who is the founder of Great Influence. Such a pleasure to have you. How are you?
I'm all good, thank you very much.
Good, sweet. So for the people that don't really know who you are, I don't know how they wouldn't because you're always on my feed on LinkedIn. Tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm Ash. I was part of, I guess from like a career standpoint, I was part of the founding team at an agency called Social Chain, which was Stephen Bartlett's big business. And my role there was to help Steve build his personal brand and work with him on that for about 3-4 years. And then I started a company called Great Influence, which does personal branding for like founders, CEOs, business leaders, high profile people, all this kind of thing. So yeah, that's a bit of my elevator pitch of myself, so to speak.
Sweet.
So if we want to take it back a bit to your university, because we speak about that a lot on this podcast, because us three didn't go to university. So what were your thoughts on your time at university and how valuable is it to you?
So I went twice. I went once when everyone kind of goes, when you're like 18, 19, 20, 21. Wasn't for me, dropped out after a month. I did like a music degree. I'm like really passionate about music. So I thought, right, I'll go learn how to produce music. And I had to do an assignment on how the ear works and how the ear like gets sound and all these things and the parts of the ear that matter and all this stuff. And I was like, this is so not for me, and left after a month. I was at university doing my final year when Social Chain started. I'd been working on and off with Steve and Dom before that on another startup thing. And like I say, they went off after that finished and I went off to university. So I knew them for a couple of years beforehand and I worked with them and was friends with them and things like that. But Social Chain started when I was in my final year. That was when the company started and I was doing third year at this time. And I didn't go to a lecture in my final year, and I just did my dissertation and turned up for the exams, and they let me get away with it because I think they understood why I wasn't there. And it wasn't in any way, shape or form useful for me. It's not been useful now, but I say that because I'm in the incredibly fortunate position of I just happened to be part of the founding team of a company that's now worth like 300 million. So I don't need a degree.
Yeah.
That's my CV. Like if I knock on any door, I could probably get a job because I'm like, I was part of something that people know about and all that kind of thing. So it would be not right for me to say that a degree is useless, but I think we're entering a very interesting time where the barriers for achieving the career that you want or opening the door to the career that you want are so immensely low now.
Yeah.
Whereas beforehand, the degree was part of the barrier.
Yeah.
Like that was, you needed that to open certain doors, and in certain industries you still need that to open the door. People will like famously say like you need a degree to be a doctor, or I did a degree to do this, a degree to do that, and that still exists. But in the majority of other areas, the degree that used to be like the one of the things that you needed to open a door is now just one of like hundreds of thousands of things that you can do to open the door. And unfortunately for the university model and degrees, that's the most expensive way of opening the door these days, which therefore makes it less appealing. Where take like any creative industry, we're in a world now where I can DM either I can DM KSI, or I can DM the CEO of Gymshark and get a job.
Yeah.
If I say the right thing.
Yeah.
That's a reality. Whereas the degree was kind of like one of a number of things in the 90s or the 80s when we didn't have that level of access. Or now I can just build my own platform, which then like I can create a YouTube channel from this right now, and I can put the phone here and I can film videos, and before you know it, I am KSI. That's the level of like the barriers being lowered that we're dealing with, and that's where I think the university model doesn't. It's not about struggling. I think university works for a lot of people, like different needs for different people. Like for me, university was the thing to help me buy time, which was a really important thing. I needed. I was 23, and you can't be 23 and broke. And I didn't want to. I refused to get a job. I'm stubborn as fuck, and I was like, I'm not going to do it because I know that me having a job that I don't enjoy impacts my ability to find the thing that I do enjoy, and I'm committed to finding the thing I do enjoy. So university for me wasn't about the education; it was about having 3 more years on a student loan, which would mean that I'm not broke. Like without that, I don't accept a job. I'm literally broke at 23, and you can't do that. You can be broke at 16, you can be broke at 18, you can probably be broke at 23 and get away with it. But it comes that point when I was at that age where you can't really just be completely broke anymore. Things. So yeah, for me it was buying more time, and I think it has its uses in education. Buying more time, experience is a big one. Like it gets you out into the world. That's probably an argument for university post-COVID, is that university is an incredibly social experience, and you learn a lot of life skills from spending 3 years in that social experience, which is even more of a compelling argument post-COVID when everyone is working from home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not like against it. I'm not for it. I have my own experience with it, and will always share that.
Great. So you spoke a bit about Social Chain. What was that when you first started? What was that like when just starting up and getting it off the ground?
Well, I didn't really. I wasn't really. I say this because I've got experience of doing something and getting it off the ground now as the founder of Great Influence. What I was doing at Social Chain was not like you can't even compare it in the slightest to what Steve and Dom were doing. They were like getting it off the ground and building it and all that kind of thing. I was just trying to do the marketing, and I wasn't doing a very good job of it at all. But the start of the company was, it was the single most exciting 12 months of my entire life, like without question, where I'd gone from a guy who was like really passionate but not sure what he was passionate about. I think a lot of young people are like that. They're like, I'm really passionate about what? I've no idea, I just am. And that was me. And I was really ambitious, but I didn't know what I wanted to achieve. And I was constantly searching and constantly going down the wrong path. I went to college 3 times. I went to university twice. I had multiple jobs that I didn't enjoy. So I'd gone on a journey from being 16 to 25 of constant exploration and disappointment, and never let it like dim the ambition, passion, or like drive to find. And then I found it. And it's like, you can imagine it's like getting to the end of the marathon. Where it's like, oh my God, I've done like that runner's high. But that for 12 months of being like, I've spent 9 years trying to find Social Chain, and now I've found it. And these first 12 months were unbelievable. It was like being attached to a rocket ship, and it was the most fun I'll ever have in my life. It was insane.
I think I remember seeing, I don't know whether it was on one of your LinkedIn posts, but didn't you start in one role and then get let go and then come back again?
Yeah, I got fired from Social Chain. It's what I said before when I said I wasn't really the person building. I wasn't the person built. I didn't do a job like Steve or Dom did, and I also, the role I did do, I did really badly. Like I wasn't good at it. And after those 12 months, best year of my life, but ended on me being let go from Social Chain. And 50% the right decision. If anything, should have been let go 3 to 6 months earlier. I think for me being a founder now, I'd have let myself go after 3 months, whereas they kept me for 12, which kind of spoke to the how much they wanted me to succeed and figure it out and cared for me and all that kind of thing. And yeah, I left, and I was just not. I was square peg in a round. Was that the square peg in a round hole? That was me. In that, I think there's a really, really interesting point here. In that, my first 12 months at Social Chain and my next 3 years at Social Chain were wildly different. In the first 12 months, I was a square peg in a round hole, and what that resulted in was that I was awful at what I did. I provided zero value to the company. I actually cost them a salary, so it was costing them money to keep me there whilst I was driving no results. It would have been frustrating to manage me and lead me and all those kind of things, especially in that stage of business, the first 12 months, where it's really, you need everyone to be driving results and adding value. I was really unconfident because I knew I wasn't able to do the job well and all these kind of things, and it was affecting me personally. And it's just like this spiral from being a square peg in a round hole. It was like a spiral of down. And then I left the company, and about 3 to 6 months went by. Me and Steve stayed talking, stayed friends, all that kind of thing. And we'd spoke about him doing a YouTube channel for years before Social Chain, 2012, 13. I first met him in 2012. It was something that we both spoke about around that time. And it just made sense for him to be doing, building his personal brand in that moment. And he spoke to me about it, and we started doing it in a very, dip our toes into the water way, where we'd come into the office at midnight. He'd pick me up at midnight. We'd drive to the office. We'd film we'd film videos till 3, 4 in the morning. And then he'd go to work at Social Chain the next day, and I'd go home and do my thing. And we just did that for a couple months, and it started working. And then the whole thing that you see now, that all just starts, you can imagine it starts coming to life. You film a few videos in the middle of the night, and then they start getting traction, and then it's we should do more of this. How can we do more of it? More starts happening. All of a sudden, a new role kind of opened up for me, where it was why don't you join Social Chain full time again, helping me do this? And it was just the perfect role for me. I was hugely you will not find a bigger fan of Stephen Bartlett than me. One does not even and I was like that from day one, when I first met him in 2012. So it was the right thing for me to be doing. And I wasn't really excited or passionate about what Social Chain did, the actual work of it. I just loved being part of Social Chain. That was an unbelievable company to be a part of and all that kind of thing. But the actual work wasn't something I was too interested in. So when I started working on Steve, it was I'm passionate about him, and I love everything that he does and all that kind of thing. So it was a round peg in a round hole. And the difference is that, the work that we did in those 3 years, I'm not good on social media, or I wasn't. And I helped grow a Facebook page to 1 million likes. I helped grow Instagram accounts to, tens of thousands of people. I helped grow a YouTube channel to 50K. All these things happened in those 3 years. And it wasn't because I was good at social media. It was because I had the passion about what I was doing to learn the things. And I had no idea how to do loads of things that we did in those 3 years. But with his support and his help and his guidance, I got better at doing things. And then that gave me the springboard and the self-belief and the confidence that I could go and do my own thing. So when I talk about that square peg in a round hole versus round peg in a round hole, the exact same person in the exact same company, managed by the exact same people, to immensely different parallel outcomes and results.
Yeah.
So it speaks volumes about the importance of making sure that you're a round peg in a round hole, because one of those people had no chance in a million years of building great influence, and the other has done it and smashed it. And that's the difference. Exact same person, exact same company, completely different outcomes. So yeah, I'd say that was like the takeaway from it for me.
I love that. I love that analogy as well. It's like being able to push your passion in the right places. Because like you said, I mean, you know, we're all quite young here, right? I mean, me and Aisha are both 18. Callum, what, you're 20?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I've been passionate about something since I was young. You know, I mean, I knew I was passionate about business in some sense from when I was about 15, 16. But like you said, it's about working where that passion resides and where to put it into. And I think that journey of self-discovery is so important. And once you find that sort of slot that you fit into, it's a game changer, because once you're passionate about something and you enjoy doing it, you want to put your all into it all the time. And that's when you deliver the best results.
I think it's about being resilient too. Like the amount of times resilient and stubborn. So it's very easy to just take relationships. Relationships are really, really easy to just keep doing them even though you don't enjoy it. They're so easy to just keep going even though you're not enjoying it. And on that point of like following your passion, it takes like a resilience and stubbornness to say, this isn't for me. I'm going to go explore and try find something else. And to the point where I literally, like, I remember working at a call center and I got 4 weeks in and it was like 12:30 on a Friday, and I just took my headset off and I walked out. And they're like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm done. That level of stubbornness, like there was no, I'm gone and I do not care what anyone tells me. I'm following what I think is the right thing to do. Which for young people is incredibly difficult, because you've got like parents in here, somebody else in here, your friends doing things which influences you in certain directions. And I had to be the guy that was willing to be stubborn and probably like the friendship group scapegoat at times, where I was on job seekers allowance for like 3 years when I was like 22, 23, 24, and my friends all had jobs, and like I'd get the piss taken out of me for it. It's like, yeah, you're on the dole, yada yada yada. I was a bit of like I was the grunt, is it like the term, like the
run?
The runt of the pack. There we go, yeah, the runt of the litter. That was me, because I hadn't got the job that they had, because my parents, I hadn't gone to the university or got the job that my parents' friends' kids had done, and all those kind of things. So when you're a young person, you've got all these elements that are external to you that are influencing you internally. And I just had the stubbornness to block all of it out, regardless of what it made people think of me and their perception of me and all these things. And so that stubbornness was one thing, but then the resilience to keep going down different paths, and even if it's the wrong one, to be able to walk away and start again from ground zero, to the point where I thought I'd found it with Social Chain and I got let go. And you can imagine how devastating the moment that was for me.
Yeah.
And still, I just went again. And I had a failed startup after I tried to start a business up after I left Social Chain first time. Completely failed. So I've been fired from Social Chain. That's me having to go again. I try a startup, it doesn't work. I have to go again. Like that resilience to block all the external out and have the stubbornness and resilience to go again, I think is super, super important. And now the same person who used to like take the piss out of me for being on the dole is the one that's like, you're smashing it. 10 years later, it takes time, but I'm incredibly stubborn. If there's one thing that if my mum was sat here, she'd say was my personality trait, it's like, you're so stubborn. Well, thank God I was.
Yeah.
I love that. So I guess kind of going on from those points, obviously you started up Great Influence. Why did you actually choose to start your own business, or at least start up a new one after the startup failed? What was that drive for you? Obviously you said you were stubborn, but you know there had to be like a big underlying reason as to why you wanted to kick it off.
The truth is, I'm unemployable. So I've just done a post on LinkedIn about this today, saying that I
saw it.
To 99%, I'm completely unemployable, and I found that out at Social Chain, where even in the right role, I loved. Who would ever leave working on Stephen Bartlett's personal brand and working directly with Stephen Bartlett? Who would do that? Me, because I'm unemployable. I just it was not like, even that the dream job for me wasn't for me in the end after a while. And if I wasn't going to make it there, I couldn't, like, that was the place for me. It was there or bust. And eventually I learned that wasn't the right place for me personally. So I realized in that moment I was unemployable. So when I left Social Chain, it was like, well, you've got no choice but to figure out what you can do and you can build. And I was almost pushed into a corner with it where I didn't want to do it. Not that I didn't want to do it, I just never get confidence in being an entrepreneur. And I think the term is actually damaging to people like me, because the term entrepreneur comes with this idea of the kind of person it is, and I am not that person at all. So I had no confidence in me being that, which then affects my self-confidence when I'm trying to think of what I can do. And I didn't think I could sell to anyone. I didn't think I could manage people. All these things that part and parcel of building a business, I thought are just not me at all. So yeah, I was kind of forced into a corner with it because I was unemployable. I had no choice but to at least try it. And I had £4,000 in my bank account, and that would cover me for about 6 months. And I was like, right, I'm going to give myself 6 months to see if I can do this. And that's like a common story. I worked with the founder of Huel, Julian, and he did the same. His wife was pregnant, and he was about to have a child for the first time, and he quit his job, and he had 6 months worth of money in the bank, and he said, I'm going to give it a go. If it doesn't work out, I'll go back and get the job. And I was the same. I was like, I've got 6 months, I'm going to give it a go. If not, I'll get a job. I got 6 months in, and that was Christmas 2018. And I read a text the other day from that saying, I don't know if this Great Influence thing is going to work. So yeah, even 6 months in, I had no idea whether it was going to work still or not. I just kind of, by that point, I must have got enough of a way down the line to be like, right, even if I think it might not work, I'm going to continue down and see where it goes. And then it started to work.
Wow. No, that's so cool. I feel like when people start businesses, it's like there's a crazy statistic out there of like how many fail and how many actually succeed. So like it's so cool to see like where you are today. But I wanted to ask you, like, what are the sort of highs and lows for you of starting your business? Like, what would you say the biggest highs are, and sort of obviously, sadly, the biggest lows?
So the highs for me are, there's like business. I guess it's all business. The highs are winning certain clients, which it's not the winning the client. It's what that winning that client tells you about yourself. Where there's been several clients that have agreed to work with us, and it's like, yes, it's amazing to be able to work with some of these people. Like, literally, there's one client that we have, and it literally blows my mind on a consistent basis that we're working with them. But it's not that. It's what it tells me about myself. It's like, you are good enough. There's self-doubt when you're in business kind of creeps in. That idea after 6 months, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. You have self-doubt, and those moments give you the confidence, and confidence compounds in business. It really compounds. So yeah, those are the highs, and the other like undeniable high is, I said earlier that the best 12 months of life came in that first year of Social Chain. I've somehow had the extreme fortune of being part of another team that gives me that like an even greater satisfaction, if anything, because they're there because of me, with the team at Great Influence, and I'm so like immensely proud to work with them, and they're an incredible group of people, and I miss them today because I'm not with them. Like, that's how much I enjoy spending time with them. So those are the highs for me. The lows, there isn't any. None have come to mind. Don't get me wrong, it's immensely difficult. It's the single most challenging thing I've ever put myself through in my life by a million miles. And it's a constant learning curve. It's a constant personal development curve. Your senses have to be constantly sharp. You have to commit to ways that you didn't know you could commit before. You have to sacrifice things. You have to learn to change who you are as a person, and you have to let aspects of yourself go that you maybe weren't willing to let go yet. It's just mental. But there's no lows. Like, I've not had lows. We've had clients that have come to an end, and there's been difficult conversations that I've had to have, but the difficult conversations are all, rather than a low moment, they're like, I see it as, if I'm going to get better at this thing, I need to do that. So yeah, I've been incredibly fortunate. There's no low moment that stands out for me so far, and I think business so far has been quite coasty. I think I've been super fortunate in that it's just kind of constantly been like this, and there's not been a really bad day where, like at Social Chain in the early days, somebody hacked one of the co-founders' emails and sent emails to the clients that were meant to look like they weren't meant for the clients, but were saying very bad things about the clients. And it was a hack. And you can imagine that goes to every single one of your clients on that day. And it was the same day. It happened whilst we were at a team like paintballing day. So we were driving to the paintballing thing, and this happens. Yeah. So I've not had one of those moments in business, fortunately. So there's not been like a low. It's just there's been loads of challenges, and it's personally difficult and it's business difficult. But it's all manageable, and I always come out of it on the other side of feeling like it's helped me develop strength in some way, shape, or form.
No, so it's been constructive. No, that's good. And then I know you said sort of 6 months into it, I think you said you said to your friend, or you texted someone, I don't know if this Great Influence thing is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to work. But like, was there a point where you sort of started to think that Great Influence could be as successful as it is right now? Or is it sort of like one of those things where it keeps surprising you?
Yeah, I think it's very gradual. And maybe I'm just a bit oblivious and unaware as to like what it can do and where it can go, and I don't think about those things. And it's also just, like I say, it's been very gradual. You don't wake up one day and have 6 people in your team and all these great clients. It kind of happens bit by bit by bit by bit. So there was no like, this is so different now. So you adjust to it gradually every step of the way. At 6 months, I would have never thought that we'd work with some of the clients that we'd have. I definitely didn't think we'd produce the results we have. I definitely didn't think that some of the people that trust us that put trust in us would happen. And I didn't think I'd have a team of 6 people that were as good as the team that I have now. So, but I'm like super ambitious. So I think anything is achievable. And there's a really interesting thing that Steve always used to say to me is like, you need case studies in your life for things. And it's one of those not a principle, but something that I've always remembered is that you need a case study to be able to achieve anything. And again, I'm in a privileged position as a business owner in that I've got case studies. I was part of Social Chain. I saw firsthand how it happened. So I had a case study for being able to build my own business. Whereas it's very difficult. You can't see, like, if you can't see it, you can't be it kind of vibes. It just knowing that it's possible makes it possible. So yeah, there's no plan. There's no plan for Great Influence now. I don't have a business plan. Like, I have no idea what this company is going to be in 6 months in the absolute slightest. So I don't know, but wherever it goes to, I believe it could have got there, whatever that looks like, if that makes sense.
So do you have any advice for anyone that's maybe thinking of starting a business and maybe is a bit apprehensive about it? Because of course, you had your fair share of experience with that.
My immediate thought was, especially for young people like your age, was don't do it. But then I can kind of see why you should. So I'll say why I think you shouldn't, and then why I think you should. Why I think you shouldn't is because it's like getting a dog. In that a dog I've got a pug called Bruce. Love him. Oh my God, love him with all my heart. You've no idea. But Bruce is a pain in the arse, and he's a responsibility. And there's something that I have to look after and care for, and these things. And I got Bruce when I was 26, and I wish I'd have waited till I was 34 to get Bruce. I was too young to get a Bruce. And it's kind of the same when I'm talking about business, where it's like entrepreneurship, starting your own thing, where I think it's changed me that much as a person that I wouldn't want to have done it at 20. I'd rather just enjoy being 20, because you don't get 20 back. You don't get 25 back. And life changes at 30. Whether you like it or not, it's inevitable. Life just changes at 30 in the same way that life again changes at 40, in a very fundamental way. That's why I wouldn't do it if I could go back. I think I waited for the right time. And also I think I wouldn't have been able to create a success of it to this degree if I'd have done it earlier. But then I have friends that have done it earlier, where like Steve and Dom were 18 when they started Social Chain, and they were the co-founders there. And I have other clients who started when they were 20, 21, and now they're 28 and they're 7 years in. And what it gives, if that's your path, then, Dom, for example, wasn't a born entrepreneur like Steve was. That was always his destiny. And Dom wasn't. But it's something that is now his path. And he has this wealth of experience that he got out of the way at a young age, that now he's at my age. No, he's a bit younger than me, but he's so much more mature in business than me, despite being 4 years younger. So that's like a thing that if I'd say do it, it's that, like, if it's always going to be the thing that you end up doing in life, then you're getting a level of experience at a very young age. And also you can go all in. So take somebody like my age now, 34, could be on the verge of like having kids or needing a mortgage or having a partner and needing to spend time there. Whereas when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you can just go all in. And you can also lose everything. I can't, like 34-year-olds can't lose everything. It's a lot more difficult to deal with, because you just have higher overheads and you have a more developed life and these things. Whereas when you're 21, if you lose everything, who cares? Like, go again. So that there's like pros and cons for it from my point of view. Like, I can see why both are insanely valuable, to do it later or to do it younger. So yeah, that would be my thoughts on it. It's not advice so much, but my thoughts on it for young people. But at the same time, I'm probably more pro somebody young doing it than against somebody young doing it, even though it wouldn't be for me, because I just think the upsides on the ability to change your life, like game changing and worth rolling the dice for.
Okay, so I suppose really just to sort of wrap up on that, then I kind of want to just zoom out a little bit. It's one of my favorite phrases on the podcast. So if we think about really what great influence does, one of, I suppose it's a buzzword, I guess, these days is personal branding, right? So I suppose really the question I've got to you is, why is personal branding so important now? And also, why is personal branding important to young people? Because this is something I talk about so much on my LinkedIn because I'm really passionate about it, but I'd love to hear your side of it.
It's the single most important thing that a young person can be doing. It matters less the older and more further into your career you get, because there's other factors that come into play, like your skills and experience and your network and just so many other factors. When you're young, it's the single most important thing that every single person should aggressively understand. Like, go down the rabbit hole so far and come back out, and what you come back out with is literally life changing. Where I've seen it too many times that people that grasp, forget the term personal branding, people that grasp what happens around that term, which is like building audiences, creating content that resonates with people, building relationships, storytelling, thought leadership, all these things that come under the banner of personal branding are immensely valuable skills. And all those skills are what you do that then people say, you're building a personal brand, but you're actually just doing a number of things. And what they result in, that is the thing why personal branding works and matters, and people, like in our instance, pay us to do it, is because it creates opportunity. That's the ROI on it, is it creates opportunity for whatever you point that opportunity towards, and also for opportunity that you had no idea existed that could be very exciting for you to do. And literally in my instance, I'm hiring at the minute, and it's a bit different because we're a personal branding agency and we're looking for a certain thing that, if somebody's building their own personal brand, they're inherently more attractive to us as a business. But as an employer, I'm looking on their LinkedIn, I'm looking on their Instagram, I'm looking on their Twitter, and you almost, so say there's two people going for a job interview, and one of them has never posted online, the other has posted online every single day for the last 6 months. When those two people walk into the interview room, one of them has an incredibly unfair advantage before they've already stepped into the room, because the person who knows them to a degree and is able to gauge, yes, this is the kind of person that I want in my team. This is the kind of person that I think has the skills that we need, because you can see them as the employer. So that's just in the case of like interviews and getting a job. But outside of that, like, look at every single YouTuber, TikToker, Twitch streamers. They've all leveraged personal branding, like the things that go around personal branding, creating content, building audiences, building platforms, all these things for themselves, and it's created life-changing opportunities. You've now got like an unbelievable, mind-blowing shift in, take the NFT space, for example, where there are so many brands in the world that need to understand what is happening in that space. And who understands the space? 18-year-olds. And if I'm an 18-year-old and I have a passion for NFTs, I'm making YouTube videos about it. And before you know it, brands are coming to me being like, you're the guy that does those YouTube videos on NFTs. We'll pay you to teach us about NFTs. And all of a sudden you're a consultant to brands on NFTs. And before you know it, you've been a consultant to Apple, to Boohoo, to this, to that. And all of a sudden you've got this unbelievable CV as a consultant, and you can charge ridiculous amounts to be a consultant on a space that is only going to grow over time. We're literally like very early in that whole thing. And it's all off the back of understanding personal branding. So it's the most important thing for young people to do is to fill the well of potential opportunities. And there's nothing that fills the well of potential opportunities more than understanding and building personal branding.
I was just saying that I was going to ask you about advice that you might have for interns and apprentices and things, but I feel like you've pretty much said what you needed to say, like just how important personal branding would be for them and how it can really just take them to a whole new level and unlock so many doors, unless you had anything you wanted to add to it. But yeah,
understand your superpower is like, from a personal branding point of view, you may think that because you are 18 and in a full-time job that you're inexperienced. But what about the plus sides that an 18-year-old brings to a full-time job and company? What are those? And talking about those. So it's like finding the superpower of, or finding the positives of your situation and finding the thing that really resonates with people. Where I did a post yesterday that is why I didn't see the link, Jamie, because that you sent me earlier, because you should see my LinkedIn inbox right now. It's nuts. The post went viral yesterday, and it's done like 35,000 likes, 2.5 million views, and it was talking about introverts and being an introvert in a meeting. I'm an introvert person. I'm usually quite quiet in meetings. I don't usually say much, but afterwards I'll go away, collect my thoughts and deliver them to people afterwards. And that was the crux of the post. It was like, let's normalize people being quiet in meetings, which is not, it's not that made it go viral. It's the fact that I identified something that is a huge subset of people, introverts, in this world were either introvert or extrovert on the scale somewhere. So I'm resonating with millions of people, the fact that I'm talking about introverts, and then I've tied it into a really relevant experience that everybody shares as an introvert, which every single person who's had a job has usually been in a meeting. And everybody that's been in a meeting that's an introvert has probably not said anything in that meeting. So yeah, I found I understood myself that I'm an introvert, which is like step one, understand who you are and what your situation is right now. And then step two, understand the positives of it, the super strengths with it, the familiar issues that you face that everybody else faces with it, and then speak out on those things and be a champion for them and say your thoughts on them. That's the advice that I'd give, and apparently makes viral content. So
there you go.
Yeah, and you only need one of them. You only need one. There's in our team, Ellie Middleton. You only need one post. She did one post, went viral. She's now got 50,000 followers on LinkedIn. She's got opportunities left, right, and centre. Her life
She's killing it.
Her life has changed an immense amount in super, super positive ways off one post. And that's it. So you only need that one thing. So yeah, that'd be my advice.
100% eye-opening. Okay, well, sweet. I suppose we should wrap it up there. Ash, before we wrap it up completely, where can people find you? I mean, obviously you're on LinkedIn, but is there anywhere in particular where people can start a conversation with you?
Yeah, just LinkedIn, Ash Jones on LinkedIn. That seems to be where I spend most of my time. So, yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us, and we will see you all next week. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.